Hi, this is PaulaE. I'm outside in the park today and thought whilst I'm outside, let's take an opportunity to get another video that looks different from my normal setting. So I'm out in my local park, just chilling really, and earthing and getting some natural vitamin D. And I just thought, why not introduce myself to my YouTube channel? I've been a YouTube follower for many years but never ever posted anything, and recently, due to changes on Instagram, I find myself on YouTube, but again going through the rigmaroles of having people to like and subscribe to your channel before I can actually go live. So there are many titles to what it is that I do. Are they significant right now? I don't think so. I think what's more important is what it is that I have to share and what it is that I have to offer, and it will either resonate with you or it won't, and that's okay. I'm not trying to say that I'm like Marmite, because I'm not, because you either like or love me, and if you choose to hate, that is something that you need to consider for yourself. So anyways, what's this channel all about? Well, this channel is about exploration. It's about soul depth. It's not about surface dwellers. It explains bypassing, and bypassing doesn't necessarily mean about spiritual things. It can be about general life experiences. I'm interested in most things. Philosophy has been my first love, and then counselling came into my life. I'm also now, through different types of works and different trainings, I have incorporated many more transpersonal elements to how I work. So how will this channel work? This channel will work based upon exploration and the willingness to explore things that maybe you've forgotten, or explore things that will take away the layers of hurt and pain and trauma, in order that you can see yourself and your life in a brighter light, which is always a bonus, because the way I work is not necessarily in a passive way. It's very interactive. It's not a monologue only for me, although on social media it can sound very much like a monologue. I very much prefer a dialogue and engagement. I use different modalities in the way that I work, and it's also, and I use all aspects as a part. I use a lot of metaphors, that's the word. Here in my area is very noisy, right? I use many different metaphors in order to aid translations of what it is that we're going through. And I use films, I watch films that are passionate to me, and I turn them into lessons. And so, there is a lot to explore and expand, and so, if you're not ready for soul depth dive, that's okay, because you can be a silent listener. I have many silent listeners. I was a silent listener for many years to my current mentor, and now that I am doing the work, I'm ready to do the work, so that's okay. But it would be lovely if you could like and subscribe to my channel, and so that I can share more content and more, so that I can become more visible to others. And and saying that word visible is huge, because although I teach and I'm constantly visible to my students and to my clients of many kinds, being visible on social media was one of the things that I was really challenged by. I always had something to say, and I can be very chatty, and I can be very serious, and I can be very silent, and sometimes my silence can be a little bit haunting. But again, everybody goes through their own process, and this channel is about finding the you that you may not have recognized before or wasn't ready to embrace before. And it's about sorry, bits are dropping. this is now time to, well, what was I saying, because I got distracted. You know, it's about exploring and being okay with what you find, and being, you know, finding that authentic you, and whatever that looks like, that you don't have to justify, and then you can be unapologetically you. And that's a term that I really am embodying at the moment. Unapologetically you, you know, reigning in the you-ness of what makes you brilliant and what makes you shine, you know. And one of the there's a poem that really resonates with me, you know, by Marianne Williamson, which talks about your light and your darkness, right? Your darkness is the shadow parts, the things that you haven't explored into any great depth. And then there is your light. And it's, she says in her poem, it's not your darkness that frightens you, it is your light. And I did a series or an episode on my Instagram channel that talked about, you know, adjusting your eyes from the darkness when the light appears. And so let your light shine, and those are the things that we'll be looking about here. I'm not here talking about theory, I'm not here talking about politics, you know. I will sometimes draw cards, but that's not my primary focus. The cards that I pull will be as an aid to support what it is, or confirm what it is that I've been speaking about. And so I'm not necessarily here to do readings, although readings will be a part of what it is that I do, because there's so many beautiful people online that already do readings. So I'm not necessarily coming on here to jump on that bandwagon. I want to do something that's unique, that resonates with me. And as much as I love doing readings within my practice, it's not the primary focus. It's an aid that I use. It's as a part of how I work. And so yeah, so I just wanted to jump on so that you could see me outside of the shorts, as it were, and kind of so you could get a feel of, you know, yeah, I'm not normally dressed like this, but it's hot and I'm outside, so what you gonna do? You know, let's keep it real. And you know, sometimes I can appear serious, but that's not necessarily it is a part of who I am, but it isn't something that should stir you away from me, because in that seriousness there is a really dry sense of humor. Sometimes you might find it funny and sometimes you might not. You know, sometimes I think that I am very funny, and then other people might think she's a bit random. But you know, I'm not here to, you know, be thirsty in how I get my audience. I just want people who are ready to explore themselves at a deeper level, and wanting to, you know, explore at their own pace, because I know what that's like. You know, as I said, I was a silent listener for many years before I joined. I have 3 mentors that I follow in my own way. One of them I'm doing training. One of them I do training with, which is great, and it's really challenging. So as I may speak to you and you might feel it's challenging, I'm also challenged by my mentors in the way that, you know, the lessons that I have to work through as well. So just as you're going through stuff, I'm going through stuff, I keep it real. I don't have time to be looking perfect and like I've got my stuff together. That's not necessarily the plan or the image that I want to profess. I am, you know, I go through life. I'm in this human suit, and I'm here and I'm attempting to learn the lessons in a way that will make sense to me. And I'm hoping that what it is that I learn, that I can share with you, as well as my professional knowledge and insight. You know, because I don't want to be limited to the title of a counsellor, a supervisor, a coach, or a tutor or a lecturer, whatever it is, energetic healer. I don't want to be limited to that. You know, those things I do know, those modalities I do know. You know, I'm a trained yoga teacher in Drew modality, which is about the still point. And you know, it took me years to work out why I was so drawn to Drew yoga, and I'm still working with that still point to this day, you know, because meditation, people are always saying, you know, meditate, and I'm kind of thinking, yeah, but when I meditate, I sit and all I do is think about, well, what can I do next? Well, what lesson plan, what can I teach my students? Well, where do I need to do, you know, when do I need to go shopping? Yeah. So, and I you know, and it's my current mentor that has shown me a different way of mentor, you know, of meditating. And she talks about her meditations, and she has lots of meditations, and she talks about how we can, you know, her meditations are made for you to be multitasking. You know, you can be doing things and still be meditating in a mindful meditative state. I'm thinking, oh, okay, that's interesting. But I always think, oh, you need to be, you know, serene and sitting still. But I've been trying that for years and it's not happening. So I found different ways. And then, you know, I attend many seminars online, you know, because a lot of the people that I've taken guidance from have been overseas, and not excluding in Europe, you know, but predominantly overseas. And so they were, and this lady, and I cannot remember her name, and she talked about, you know, she went off to an ashram. Poof! Okay, fly tried to get in my mouth. Anyway, yeah, she went to this ashram, and how she was introduced was that, you know, she meditated for 12 hours. I'm thinking, dear God, how can you sit down for 12 hours and just be in silence? I mean, I can sit in silence for 12 hours, that's not a problem, but to be meditating for 12 hours, girlfriend, you're on your own. And then when she came on, she said, no, when you know, you mentioned 12 hours worth of meditation, and it wasn't like that. What we did, it was a mindful practice that was in a meditative state. So we'd have our 20 minutes of meditation, then we'd go away and we'd do some mindful work, and then we'd come back again, and then we'd sit, you know, for a couple of hours, go away and do something else, come back, and we'd have a moment where we sit for 20 minutes. My camera is all over the place, I'm so sorry, you know, because if you're anything like me and have sensitive eyes, you're kind of like thinking, what on earth is she doing? Why can't she keep still? But anyway, I'm getting to a point, right? And that made me feel even better about meditating, because I'm thinking sometimes I'm not an artist. I am no way near an artist, but sometimes I sit still and I'm very in tune with my body, and so I will draw maybe, or I will journal, and through that journal I come into automatic writing, and then that reveals things to me. And then sometimes I'm, you know, I'm in my meditative state, and then I pull cards, and the information that comes out is so fascinating. So basically, if you you know, should you choose to like and subscribe, it will be a journey, you know, because I'm not professing to be a know-it-all. I know a lot. I can share a lot, I can support, I can hold safe space. I'm not as random as I sound, but I'm out in the sun and I'm hot. And it's interesting because I came into the park today, you know, for the first time this year, to be fair. And normally it's a place I come often after I've had clients that have been challenging, and I just need to ground, not challenging, but, you know, the energy is heavy, and I normally come here and I walk around and I get grounded. And I came in today and I found my spot, and I bought my chair. I don't know, can you see it? I don't know, I'm just showing you bits of myself that shouldn't be on show, but anyway. And I was sitting there and I got comfortable, and then this whole stream of kids from nowhere came. I'm thinking, dear God, how am I going to be able to? Anyway, they found a spot, and I was reading my book as I would, you know, and enjoying that, and it's a nice breeze. And then after a time I found another spot, you know, because the sun was hot and I'm trying to keep in the shade. I mean, I want the sun, but I don't want to kill myself, right? And so and then this man came from, I mean, I saw him and I thought, oh, okay, right, he's got this big bag, and I'm thinking he doesn't look the full ticket, but it's okay, you know, because sometimes I'm not the full ticket, and, you know, we crack on anyway. And I saw him, and he sat down, and I was reading my book, and I've got my headphones on to have music in the background so that I'm one of those, you know, I'm multitasking, because I'm easily distracted, right, sometimes, not all the time, right, when I need to be focused, I am on it. But anyway, so he's sitting there and he literally starts having this conversation with himself. And I thought to myself, life is so fragile, you know, because what does it take for us to become less mindful of our sanity? And not, there was a time when I used to be fearful of people like that because I didn't understand, right? And I still don't need to understand. But with all the learning, the teachings that I've followed, I've realized that sometimes when someone has diminished cognitive engagement as we know it, right, there is a much more, there's a deeper transpersonal situation going on. I didn't mean to go like this, but anyway, I'll see what happens when I finish. And I was listening to part of his conversation, and he is having a conversation with someone, and he doesn't want this person to kind of tell them what to do, really. And I'm not, you know, because where I am at the moment, I'm just not getting involved in that conversation today, because this day is about me, and I give a lot of my time away to other people, and I'm thinking this time that is for me, right? I need to honor that, because if I can't honor it for me, then whenever am I going to? But anyway, I digress. So this is, over the years I've listened and read work by Dolores Cannon. I've listened to teachings of various different people, but her work has freaked me out many a times that any of you have engaged with it. But there's so much richness in it, and there's this exploration of aspects of us that are unexplainable to the 3D world. So anyway, so my conversation, so I'm going to stop there on that, because that could go down a spiral, and I don't want this video to be too long. But because basically I just jumped on just to introduce myself and kind of like welcome you to Counselling with Vision. Counselling with Vision is my overall umbrella, but most of the work that will be done here will be based on SoulQuest Check-in Inquiry. And so as the weeks go on, I will post here, and hopefully you will join me on this journey. Technology as it is, I am learning, so there may be editing, there may be not. I don't know what I'm doing with all that, but it is what it is. So it is what I have created it to be. So again, I'm very mindful of words, and again, please like and subscribe, and let's see what other content can be shared in this space. So thank you for your time, and I'm gonna go back and maybe finish few more chapters in my book before I decide to go home. So take care of you, and see you again soon. Maybe not outside, but who knows. Take care, bye.